What's up, guys? This is my part 2 video of my Flik Wing experience. Now, this looks very different to what I did the last time, doesn't it? And you're probably thinking, man, you're saying that you don't want to put the VTX on the cover. Why is the VTX on the cover? Well, check this out, guys. I decided to do this. This is perfect for me. This is like one of the greatest things ever. This makes this Flik Wing so much nicer. How did I come to this conclusion? Well, a few things had to happen, right? First of all, I had to move the flight controller forward. So if you saw in my last video, I had it behind the spar, but because I was trying to fly with a smaller battery, this is a 18350 pack, which is really nice to fly, by the way. I wanted it to have more weight forward so I could just, put that battery all the way in the front and it would balance. So I moved the flight controller forward, and then all of a sudden, when I was doing my last video, actually I recorded this before and I was gonna put that video out, and then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute. I said the words that, I think the hatch is too big. And then I thought, hold a second, I could just cut it. And then in my mind, I just saw how the latch would hold it here, and I could put a magnet here and it would be perfect. Guys, this is a very good setup. Now, I want to say that the mount that I had in the front, this actually worked. It worked. It worked okay for when I use the O4 system, because the O4 actually seems to do much better in heat dissipation or just generating heat. It's way more efficient. The chipset that DJI use are more modern, I guess, so it doesn't create so much heat and it's easier to cool it as a result. So whereas the walk snail system was overheating when I had it here, DJI was doing a very good job and it actually works. So if you want to stay with that, it's fine. The problem I had is when I had to get the battery in and out to get it underneath this, it was very fiddly and I really hated it. So what I did, I just put one dab of glue here, one dab of glue here, one dab of glue here, and you're thinking, well, what if I need to do something with the flight controller or the ESC? I could just pull really hard and this will just break. So, I've had to pull off, like, the motor mount is glued and I had to like just take a blade and just cut it off. It comes off pretty easily. I put the little plastic mounting nuts underneath and just glued them so I can literally just screw this out and put the O4 in there when I'm ready. And yeah, guys, perfect. And the GPS, I just kind of took this also, cut out a little slot in the side there and just put some glue, and I get 30 satellites right there. So you're probably wondering, why do I have walk snail in here when I have the O4? Like, shouldn't I be using the O4? Well, I was, and there's lots of footage here with the O4. And this is out because I had a crash. Again, similar to what happened the last video. I know I'm stupid for flying over water, guys, but this place is right outside my house. I didn't expect this to happen because everything was set so well. I was actually testing a new prop, new motor, and this small battery, and I thought, okay, it's gonna have enough power because it's much lighter, but I think there was too much voltage sag or something, and it just kind of wiggled up the sky right here. I had no authority. This was the weirdest crash ever. But anyway, that's the reason why the O4 is actually dead, and I'm going to be putting another one that I have in here when I get back. So basically, I just took a magnet. I had a magnet left over from my Nano Goblin build. Of course, I recessed it right there, as you can see. And I made sure that when I cut this, that I kind of angled it forward. I would actually angle it a lot more forward so that it kind of creates a nice little mating surface and not just a vertical one. You see, so it's not like a satisfying click, but it's in there. This ain't coming out, guys. I really didn't like this mounting system that the Flik came with, and it actually worked better than I expected, but it was very annoying. It really was hard to be like moving it around. But I don't know. This might not work for everybody. Like, I don't know if you're doing like a 6S build or something and going really fast, this might fly off. But for what I'm doing with 2S, that's probably going to be pretty good. I am so pleased with this. This is perfect. I just need to get the O4 back in there and it's perfect again. Guys, with these digital systems, you cannot lock them in the fuselage. It just doesn't really make sense. And I saw a design where somebody made a mount where it made some big holes here. I almost went with that, but I decided I don't want to put holes in the fuselage. I want to kind of keep the aerodynamics clean, and that's, kind of what I did here. This GPS placement, the weirdest thing I've ever done. But for some reason, I was having so much trouble with the GPS. So when I had it right here, like if you saw my last video, I just mounted it down there. It worked. It worked okay. But I know that, I wasn't getting the full amount of satellites. It kind of took longer to lock than I'd like. And then I decided that I wanted to try and put the GPS on the wing here. You can see I cut this out. I installed it and it didn't work. For some reason, it worked, but it just took very long to lock. And now it seems like this would be the perfect place to put it because it's away from everything. Something was causing interference, and maybe I have resolved that thing and putting it back there now would work. But let me know, guys, where you put your GPS and if you have any issues, because I really was moving it around and I found that just moving it just a little bit made the signal better. I don't know what was causing that, but for some reason, when I did this and I flew it, I got almost 30 satellites, which is quite a lot. Right, guys, I've been showing you some DJI O4 footage here. Now, obviously, this needs no commentary. The DJI is just the best when it comes to image quality. There's just hands down no commentary on that. But what I wanted to get out of this plane is some amazing footage that I can occasionally post and just, show off the cool locations that I fly. So I really wanted the stabilization to work extremely well. And of course, these planes wiggle a whole lot because they're tiny and, the wind just kind of pushes them around. The problem with the O4 with that is that, yeah, the stabilization works really well. I had no problems, no vibrations, but the O4 has this thing where it uses this high dynamic range algorithm across the camera. Now, most cameras that are more high end have this, and that's what makes the image look so amazing. So, in a situation like this that I'm showing you here, where there's a lot of dynamic range, there's lots of dark and bright areas, but it looks for the brightest spots and it darkens it, and it looks for the dark spots and it makes it brighter. So that creates this uneven mat across the image. So when you try to stabilize it in gyroflow here, you can see how it moves the image around. It's moving the mat that it creates also. So it's kind of like putting a filter, like a gradient filter across the image. So when you move the image like this, it creates, you can actually see it. Like it looks like, yeah, it's stable, but you can see that something is moving and it kind of doesn't look very good. Walksnail doesn't have that problem because they don't have any advanced, like, HDR stuff going on there. So if DJI were to come up with a mode that was like a log, not so much color and to take off the HDR, that would be perfect. That's the one problem I had. The second problem I had was range. I didn't get very far with this. I got like 2 miles out before it started to really like degrade the picture. I expected better from DJI. I got 4 miles on the Walksnail unit using 200 milliwatts and some patch antennas. That to me is incredible. The fact that DJI doesn't even show you how much power you're using, it goes up to, I think, 700 milliwatts, and you're using so much more power just to, go the same that Walksnail can do on 200 milliwatts. You can set the power, but this was on auto. I do believe that I got that range because it was on the verge of overheating. And DJI is smart. They don't let it get any more power. So it saves it from overheating. So I think that's what was happening. So this is going to be going back in there at some point. Of course, this one is like broken now because of the water, the salt water that got in it. So I think the camera's still good. I don't know, whatever. But anyway, guys, now let's talk about my little mishap here. So I was testing different motors and I tested this one, which is basically it's a 1303 5000 kV. I wanted to go down a bit because when I punch the throttle on this setup with the 1108 6000 kV, it really dips the battery, of course, because that's a powerful motor. And I thought that, wow, that is drawing a lot of amps. I want something a little bit more efficient. So I tried this setup. I tried it with the same prop. It actually worked, and it worked with this big, heavy 18650 pack that I have in here. And this is what you were seeing all the time. Most of the footage that I'm showing you from the DJI O4 was running this motor and that prop. This two-blade prop actually was fun to fly. Check this out. I was really zipping this around with this motor, and it was, very high throttle because you have to keep the speed up. But yeah, this is where the Flik actually felt the most locked into me. I'm not doing too much like aerobatics with this thing because I'm trying to like, feel it out. I don't want it to crash. It felt a bit like still a little bit wobbly. So what I ended up doing on this servo linkage here, aileron linkage, is that I ended up going to the furthest out hole on this servo arm here. As you remember in the first flight, I tried the first one and it felt like it didn't have enough authority. The second one was pretty okay, but then when I was starting to really like move it around, I could feel like it was lagging. Like every time I did a roll, it would like hesitate just very, very slightly, not like when it was in the first hole. So I said, okay, to get it perfect, I'm going to put it in the furthermost hole. Now it feels just like the Nano Goblin, where it's very responsive, and this is where I could actually flick this around, and I felt like, okay, now I see why you call it a Flik Wing, because it's very flickable. So basically, if you're flying this manual, obviously the first hole, the second hole is good because manual on this feels very twitchy. I would never try to launch or do anything with this like in this configuration. So to make a long story short, do not try and cheap out and go with a very weak motor. I am okay with the 1108. Power is what you need. When you're throwing this plane, you need power sometimes to really get it going because when I launched the Nano Goblin, you can hold it here and throw it over your head. It's much easier to launch, but to launch the Flik Wing, you have to hold it like this, and you have to kind of, do it this way and swivel your wrist a certain way. And you can't get as much like throwing power that way. So you need the motor to really like push it as soon as it comes out of your hand. So I think that's the problem I had with this crash footage here because I had no authority. So when I let it go, it was just wiggling left and right. And no matter what I did, it was just going in the opposite direction. And that's one other thing I want to talk about the flick. There are certain situations where the plane is either about to stall or it hits the wind at a very strange angle. And it feels like it's just about to, I don't know, like it's not doing what you tell it to do. And it's a little bit scary. And there's a weird yaw thing that it does when it stalls. The Nana Goblin is a lot more forgiving when it stalls. In fact, when it's about to stall, it tells you, it just wiggles up and down like this. And you can be like, all right, I get it. You're stalling. This guy doesn't really do that. It does wiggle a bit, but for the most part, it just starts to fall and then it will fall and then it will just suddenly yaw or dip or something. And I think that's what happened when I crashed this. And, yeah, anyway, guys, I got it back. When planes fall in the water, it's really good because they float. You can easily get it back. If this plane didn't crash, if I didn't have this mishap, I wouldn't have not found this solution. I would have been okay with the O4 underneath that canopy. And yeah, it would have worked, but then, the O4 is kind of working like, almost hotter than it needs to be. And it might work for a while, but that's going to put stress in it over time, I believe. Maybe not, but I just feel so much more happier with it being the way it is. It might not work for you, but it works for me. I'm happy with that. And yeah, this mishap actually caused this to happen. So sometimes when things don't go your way, just wait a bit, calm down, and just be like, okay, what's the next direction I can go in to make this actually work for me? And you'll be surprised at how much it works out sometimes. So yeah, words of wisdom right there. So I got a few people asking me about the flight controller that I use. I did show this in the last video, but this is basically where it ended up. So it's literally over the spar. So because I did my 3D printed mount, I can it's raised up enough to mount on top of the spar. So it's basically this guy that's just right there. I'll see if I can post my 3D printed mount that I created. If it's, if there's enough people who want it. The target is Flywoo F405 HD. That's the target. And very important, this is what the mixer page looks like. So if you know how iNav works, you have, this is motor 1, motor 2, motor 3, motor 4. Those are the pads on your flight controller. Basically, 1 and 2 are tied together on the same timer. 3 and 4 are tied together on the same timer. So I put motor on number 1. This would be motor number 1 pad on the flight controller. This one we leave free, and then motor 3 and 4 are servos 1 and 2. It's that simple, and this is how I have it set up. I don't know if this is how it defaults. I think I changed it here. So you can probably just copy this if you're planning to do this, and you will be fine. So if you look at the pinout for the flight controller, this is basically where you'd attach the motor. So motor 1 corresponds to 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 4th pin right here, this one. This is for obviously the motor, and then you skip one, and then these two would be for the aileron. So if you look here, servo 1 is attached to the number 3 motor pad. So servo 3 would be the left side. So make sure you attach the left servo to the number 3, and the number 4 would be the right servo. Also, for the way I had it, I reversed servo number 1. So that servo number 1 has a reverse on it. Very important also, VBAT is where you would attach your battery input. So I just put the straight 2S into here. Of course, you can also do it over here. I think it's a pass-through, it's the same thing. So ground and battery. I think I use this side. So they use the battery here, ground, positive, and then ground is here. And I use the top of the USB as a grounding. So, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but it's really hard and fiddly to solder to these tiny ground things here. And sometimes I have to put multiple wires. So I just put a ball of solder on top of here and added my ground, anything that needed grounded besides the actual VBAT going in, I put it here, and that's how it works for me. All right, this is my Nano Goblin that I love and I talk about so much that I haven't been able to show, but I'm here now. This is where I mounted the VTX on this one, and to me, this has been amazing. I have many hours of flight on this particular build. I've never had a failed launch on the Nano Goblin, and I don't know, maybe it's just because of how you can launch it. You can throw it from here, you don't have to hold it by the wing. Also, let's talk about the shape of this guy, right? So It's very difficult to really talk about the way it flies, but the shape obviously, influences the flight characteristics. And I feel that the Nano Goblin might feel a little bit more stable because it's just a straight wing. It's very straight. So everything feels a little bit more symmetrical at all speeds. I feel like for this one, usually a delta wing design like this, delta meaning swept back, is built for speed. I feel like it's a good overall plane, but also speed for when it's heavy. As I spoke about, my battery is a heavier battery, so that's probably why I had those issues. If I have a lighter battery, it will slow down a lot more and feel a little bit more controllable. All right, guys, that's it for me for now. This is my Flik Wing build that I'm very happy with, and I think this is where it's going to be staying for now. I'll probably try again the two blade prop. My prop that I use there, it's I think it's a 3.5 inch or 4 inch, one of those. I don't remember which one it was. I tried different ones, but they all kind of work. It makes it louder, but not too much louder. It's kind of a cool sound. It makes you feel like you just want to race around more, and it feels quicker with the two blade. I don't know. I really like it. But I put this on because I want to be quiet. Yeah. Anyway, and the other thing is when you put it in the box, this thing touches the bottom of the box. But I cut the bottom of the box out so that the prop can kind of like stick through it, so it fits in there anyway. So I'm very pleased with this, guys. DJI O4 is going back in there again. I'll do another video on my thoughts about the DJI system. This is the N3 goggles. I actually really like it, but like I said, pros and cons to everything. Let me know if you found this useful, guys. Let me know if you'll be doing this mod right here. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one, guys. Happy flying.